My name is Matthew Todd and welcome to Inside the Scale Up. This is the podcast for founders and executives in tech looking to make an impact and learn from their peers within the tech business. We lift the lid on tech businesses, interviewing leaders and following their journey from startup to scale up and beyond, covering everything from developing product market fit, funding and fundraising models to value proposition structure and growth marketing. We learn from their journey so that you can understand how they really work, the failures, the successes, the lessons along the way, so that you can take their learnings and apply them within your own startup or scale up and join the ever-growing list of high-growth UK SaaS businesses. Hey, and welcome back to the podcast. Today I'm here with Matt Franklin, as always. Matt, as with the other guests that we have on, I'll let you introduce yourself, introduce your company, and let our audience know exactly what it is that you're up to.
Cool. Thanks, Matt. I'm Matt Franklin, CEO and founder of Payaca. So we help service businesses to run their business in the simplest way possible. So they can do everything from sending engaging, interactive quotes for work they're going to do. So typically these are in the trade industries. So think heating engineers, electricians, roofers, landscape gardeners. These quotes can have images, multiple choice options, optional extras, which help them cut out the back and forth between them and the customer, but make it easy to basically upsell their products and services so they can earn more revenue from every quote they send. And then we make that process of delivering the service super simple. So we've got web and mobile apps for field-based teams to get allocated work, and keep track of what tasks they need to do. We have like automated forms and certificates for certain industries. You can build automations. There's almost like an internal Zapier function, sending communications, managing like multiple pipelines for, so you might be doing installations might look different to services and you might need to go through separate steps. So bringing that kind of very like Kanban approach to service industries that are typically massively underserved in terms of great technology, and we go all the way through to integration with accounting software. So it is really end to end. Really helps businesses to sell more of their products and services, grow their business, manage their team, and we're just getting started really.
Awesome. No, great to hear. And we'll kind of dig into more of the detail about exactly how you've arrived at that point. But it'd be good to kind of hear a little bit about your background before starting Payaca, kind of what your experience looks like and what were some of the motivations for getting this off the ground.
Yeah, no problem. So I started my career studying statistics, went into a few different analytical roles. I was at OVO Energy, who now OVO Group, and there's a number of businesses under that. I joined them as an analyst and then moved into product management there. So they kind of went through a bit of a tech transformation, hiring lots and lots of developers, trying to structure their teams in a very agile way. I worked on various data engineering products at first, and then OVO acquired a business called Corgi Home Plan. So this is home emergency insurance cover, large network of heating engineers, and under the brand Corgi Home Heat, they wanted to launch a direct-to-consumer heating installation business. So instead of a typical flow where you get someone out to do a survey on your property and then they send you a quote to install a new boiler, for example, you could go to an online flow, really simple, click the options that you have, and then it spits out a fixed price quote at the end, next day installation, multiple payment methods. Really easy to go through that sales experience. I was given the opportunity to create that business from scratch within OVO. So initially it was just me and one software engineer, kind of building it, launching it, which was a great experience for really what I wanted to do next, which was to try something for myself. The things that we learned from that was that we could deliver that amazing sales experience with good tech, good UX, but actually then controlling the customer experience when it came to delivery of that service. It was extremely difficult. We had that network, but how do you control that? And so their customers will come into us and like, great sales experience, awesome. That's why they bought from us. But maybe we weren't always able to allocate the work to the best suited engineer in the field. So the idea then sort of triggered from that was, well, actually there's amazing businesses out there, small independent businesses that are growing, that understand their own sort of marketing strategies. They're not necessarily going to a big company to give them leads. They're running their own business, but what they don't have the capability to do is to serve technology to consumers, allow them to buy in the way that they want to buy. So they're buying products on Amazon, it's very engaged, very simple. But when it comes to services, the bar was so low, and that's because the people aren't building great software for the service industries. In general, it's very early. The adoption is way behind many other industries. So it felt there was an opportunity to bring that technology, that customer experience, the automation, the process that helped those small businesses who, when it came to actually delivering the service, were top notch, to kind of really update what they could do and give them the capability to stand out in front of their competitors. And so that's kind of where the seed for Payaca started. And so I left that role and started working on Payaca.
No, that's great that you kind of identified that gap kind of by listening to those customers, seeing that the delivery experience didn't match that initial sales experience that they went through. And as you say, kind of people are used to buying in, tech enabled ways now. So, I guess that sounds, like you're in a very good position to kind of have some experience of building a business from within a bigger business, as well as, getting some customer research as part of that and seeing the problems and opportunities. But I guess what gave you the confidence to kind of go out and then, focus on actually trying to build that? What were the kind of the validation? Was there more validation that you needed to do, or was it pretty obvious to you that, this was going to be a business that you could get off the ground?
It's an interesting question. I think the way I approach a lot of things is can't be that hard, can it? I'm just gonna. I was very much of the opinion that I couldn't do this any other way than just throwing myself into it 100%. And how hard could it be? Obviously very hard. But I think it's something that I knew I wanted to be doing this kind of thing. I wanted to be building something. I wanted to be building value and being able to create my own team from scratch and really build that culture that allowed us to deliver things rapidly. And the only way I was going to do that was to leave a employed role and just get started. I think, just a high level of self-confidence, really. It's just, and also really what was the downside risk? In reality, it's really just the opportunity cost of the salary I could earn. It felt like if I was going to take a risk any time in my life, the sooner the better, really.
Yeah, I think that's an interesting perspective. I think it's a good perspective. And if you are in a position to throw yourself into it, then, especially with the experience like you had, it sounds like, as you say, that was the ideal timing. So if you were going to do it, that was the right time to do that.
Yeah, and I think, I think it just gets harder as you get older and you take on roles with higher salaries, and I knew it was never going to get any easier to do it. And this is what I've always wanted to do. I'm so happy that I've started doing this, and we've not proven big success yet. but it sort of doesn't matter. It's the journey that we're on. That's the bit that I love. Working with a small team, like solving problems, building solutions for customers, getting that feedback, iterating quickly. Like, to be honest, like that is all that I want to do. So regardless of the outcome, and obviously we're going for a big outcome, but it sort of doesn't matter because this is what I want to do, and I just do it again.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great perspective. I think you have to love the journey as much as that outcome or whatever that destination, you think looks like, because that will change over time. You will adjust expectations as you learn. And I think people getting into this, launching a startup, launching a SaaS business, maybe influenced by a lot of kind of US-centric media that makes it sound like very simple. So, you're going to get a round of investment, then you get a bigger round of investment. And look, you're kind of worth multi-millions of pounds or dollars now, right? I don't think you can start, thinking that is a measure of success. I think you've got to love the journey and really connect to those problems that you're trying to solve.
For sure, and and there are countless examples. It's like a kind of gold medal syndrome. Like when you get there, these kind of Olympic athletes who get there and suddenly they fall into depression because they're like, oh, what now? Like, this is what I thought I was aiming for, and now I'm here, and now like what's my next goal? And that happens time and time again. So I feel like very aware that is not a trap I want to fall into. It's kind of like in the moment right now is peak really, and then everything else is a bonus.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess then from launching, making that decision to commit to this, what did those initial steps look like? Were you doing a lot of research? Were you trying to build a prototype? How did you go about trying to prove that this was something that you could progress and iterate on?
Yeah, it's an interesting one. It's definitely something that took longer for a few reasons. One of which, like part of that core sales experience, I felt that there was a big opportunity to bring payment methods. So one in particular being like for a large investment in like home improvement work, spreading the cost was a big advantage. So if you could enable those small businesses to present financing options to their customers, then that's a big benefit. Like they could cut out the need for them to go through the regulatory hoops, get FCA authorized themselves, but the customers could still get the benefit. And that was like a core part of the proposition at the start. It's absolutely not now. We've dropped it completely through the learnings that we've gained. But because of that being a core part of the proposition, we needed to get FCA authorization. So I was very much, I had a lot of experience in like building things in a very lean way and iterating quickly, but within the regulated space, like you couldn't do things that you weren't regulated to do. So it took a lot. There was a lot of time preparing the application for the FCA. A lot of people, experienced advisors, said we couldn't do it in the way that we wanted. I was the opinion that they were wrong, and went to the FCA, and it took months because their processes are quite painful. But like we did get approval in the end, and that really came down to knowing the reading the guidance inside out, and being able to present a case for actually what we want to do is in the best interest of the end customer. Everyone's protected, all of that stuff. So that took a lot of time. At the same time, I was trying to do as much research as I could into like how our target businesses would respond to the proposition without obviously being able to sell it. So I spent a bit of time just going into plumbers merchants, builders merchants, and just saying, do you mind if I just hang out in here for a bit, set up a stand? I had a little like roller banner thing, and just kind of talk to some people, and it's like doing any kind of like sales cold calling that everyone like is super scared of. It's it's fine. Like most people are like, yeah, sure, it's fine. Like set up, chat to people, do it's fine. And it's not something that I naturally was like, I'm not really an extrovert, but I knew that I had to go through that to learn a lot. So that was a extremely valuable experience to go through that. And at the same time, I also spent I just phoned people up. I just cold called potential customers, talked to them about the proposition, and 9 out of 10 people super polite, and a lot of people will just give you the time. So I'd highly recommend just doing it, because that's something that a lot of people just don't want to do and they cut out. And it was something that really enabled me, and therefore like now the team, to just get a really deep understanding of our target customers' needs. And it's put us in a position where I believe that in an industry where you don't typically get a good match of ability to build great software, good UX, and deep understanding of the customer needs, is something that I think gives us like such a massive edge. We built a simple web app to start off with that just did quoting and invoicing before we could do the financing side, which is kind of like we have those features now, not the financing. Just got testing really. The initial proposition was, we can offer a free service where we're essentially taking origination fees for loans. And obviously that's like totally changed now. It's very much like a SaaS product, and targeting probably like slightly larger businesses than we were targeting at the start. Okay. I think that's actually one of the hardest things, is because we've worked in a very iterative way. You start off, you've got a very restricted feature set, and therefore you can only target very small customers. If you're going to work in that way of just like releasing, iterating like rapidly, which is great in a lot of ways, the thing that it's not great at necessarily is that you're then, if you're moving up the chain, suddenly at one point you're targeting one set of customers, at a later point in time who you're targeting is no longer that set of customers you were targeting before. It's somewhat like completely different subset really. So that's quite a tough one.
Yeah, no, I can imagine. And for that initial research, then when you were kind of hanging out in those builders merchants, and I think it's a great piece of advice really is call your target customers as you said you did, but also look for places where they already go to hang out, attend, as a great way to meet them, preferably face to face if you can. But what were you kind of looking for from that research perspective? Was it confirmation that the financing idea, the splitting the cost, was something that they would, at least be interested in, or was it kind of deeper level research, finding out about other, problems that they had that you might be able to build some tech around?
I think both of those things. It was validating that idea, which, in terms of interest, was definitely validated. Where it completely falls down is like delivery of that. That experience, we were working with partners who couldn't necessarily deliver like great tech, great UX. You were handing that off. We were also attracting people who thought that this was a silver bullet that was going to deliver them more leads to their business. So instead of it being like a payment method that a customer's already decided to work with you, just makes it easier, which it wasn't meant to be. It was like, if I offer this, then, or if I have this option in my business, then it is gonna bring all these new customers to me. And quickly found out that even people who did bring more leads to them, it wasn't necessarily the leads that were going to be most valuable to their business. So it fell down for multiple reasons. But I think maybe that triggers the conversation, but then it's really is just a case of like asking why, asking more questions, and you really get an understanding of the underlying problems that they have. A lot of times, and this is something that I've kind of was able to have more background in from, I guess, working in a product management role, is so often people tell you solutions. So you'll ask them, whatever question it is, and they'll tell you, oh, yeah, if I had this, or if you do this, I want that. And if you actually did that, like a lot of the times it's terrible solution. But what it allows you to do is to really, really get deep into like what is the underlying problem that you're trying to solve in this silly solution you're suggesting, and then go away and like develop a better solution, a solution to that underlying problem they have, that they couldn't ever have told you what that was at the start.
So how do you then kind of bridge that gap in that research between what they're telling you they think they want versus what those underlying needs are?
I think it's just asking questions. It's funny, like I talked to our kind of sales and success team, and trying to almost like teach the questions that you should ask is actually really hard. Yeah, I find that I naturally do it, I think, because I'm constantly thinking about how you solve problems in a technical way and almost ignoring solutions they're telling me, but just constantly thinking, okay, what are they trying to do? What are they trying to solve? Why are they doing it that way? Yeah. And I naturally am asking those questions, like trying to teach someone else how to do it. I've not found a really effective way. The only way that I have found to do it is to just ask those same questions. So if someone gets off the phone with a customer and they're telling me something, I'm asking them the questions like, I see, you need to ask this, you need to ask that.
You use them as a proxy for the customer to help them actually ask those questions to the customer the next time.
Yeah, exactly. So sort of just trying to explain why, like, you need to ask this type of question, because if you don't understand why they're doing it that way, or you don't understand why they're suggesting this solution, you're just constantly, you're thinking about the problem. You're just constantly almost like filtering out the noise of like solution, just going, right, what is it you're actually trying to do here? It's just such a valuable skill to have.
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, I certainly, tell all the SaaS businesses that I work with, that we work with, that research is all about the problem, and too many founders can be too solution obsessed. And yes, you should love your solution, but it's almost like they'll have some conversations and say they're doing customer research, but really they're just looking for a minimum bar of confirmation of their solution to pass, and then they'll be a little bit scared about doing any more research in case the next people they talk to say something different. But I think your perspective is much, much better, where you've got to be willing to change the solution or even let go of the solution, and actually the problem is the most important thing.
Yeah. And I mean, to be fair, like, I made the same mistake really, because really like that we did, or I clung onto that like finance thing as a great solution, but did it solve the underlying problem if people were actually coming to it with the problem of generating leads? And like maybe there was a way that could have identified that earlier, rather than going through all that effort of getting FCA authorized and building it. I mean, there were some big benefits to it in terms of it. Like I was always very like capital constrained, and it did enable it, because there was big interest in it. It did enable us to grow very quickly, raise funding, build a team that's enabled us to build what we've built now. Yeah. Now, could I have built this team, and therefore could us together have built the product that we've built today in another way? I don't know. We didn't have the funding at the start, and actually this got us the funding. So, yeah.
It was a hook that got everyone interested, customers and investors alike then.
Yeah, it's like, we're all interested, and we're not doing this anymore. It doesn't work. But I believed at the time. I believed it was a great the solution, and it was so core to what, because I hired a couple of people in sales, and like if they will always take the easiest route to a sale. So then we sorted up a bunch of problems for ourselves because they'd made all these sales, and then we were like, like we don't like the customers who bought purely for that. Now we're getting rid of this thing. You can't really convert them. They're probably the wrong types of customers anyway for what you want, for the solution that you want to build. So we had this mix. We had people who, more when I was doing all the selling, who'd had much higher chance of buying into the entire solution, because I was never selling it in a way that caused someone to like be like, great, I'm going to offer finance that's going to solve all of my problems. But when you hire a sales team, and particularly at the start when it was like remote as well, having oversight of that and shaping your message in the right way it's very difficult.
Yeah. So how did you manage then kind of that hiring of that initial sales team, but then also kind of enabling them to sell, given that the proposition was kind of changing at the same time?
Yeah, I think it's very hard. So we started building the current product just as COVID was hitting. And therefore, like we'd been, my first hire was a software engineer. We were working in a shipping container just outside Temple Meads. And then, COVID hit and everything had to go like remote. And was quickly like, okay, we've got something. I need some help selling it. Find someone with experience in sales. Sort of had to be remote there. I think we just put a job ad on LinkedIn. Yeah. Interviewed them. Seemed like they got it. Great. Like listen to some of the calls that I've had. Let's go. So yeah, I mean, like we've got an incredible team now. Like every hire we've made has helped us learn what we actually want. We've made a bunch of mistakes along the way in terms of those hires. I think like hiring your first sales hire when you don't really have any experience of sales, other than obviously I could sell because as the founder, it's kind of like, you have to. Yeah. How I do that again. I mean, now I ended up hiring someone I've got like a high level of trust in as head of operations. So operations being like customer operations, so sales and customer success, and working with them. Like also we're like 100% office based as well. So where we've built it's easier to build that culture and find people who want to come work with us in this environment. It's like it's just so much easier now. Okay. So you even though you were kind of forced to go remote, you've opted to not to stay remote, then to kind of pull everyone together. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's something that building something new from scratch, having to iterate quickly, needing to be very dynamic, having spontaneous conversations across like all different roles, different teams, is just so hard to do remote. And I'm sure like clearly like you can do it remote, but it's such a massive edge to be in the same place together and being able to have those real-time conversations. I realize that kind of makes us quite contrarian at the moment. But the thing that we have found is like all recruiters will tell you, everyone just wants to be remote now, especially if you're talking about hiring like engineers. And it's just not true. They're just trying to remove every barrier possible to matching one person to another and getting their commission. That's all they care about. So it's not, the just incentives aren't right there. Whereas we've said, actually, we believe there are people who want to come build something new in a small team. It like with us here, we're not going to pay the highest salaries, but people who really care, want to like do something with meaning, like then they do come to us, and it's harder for us at the sort of top of the funnel to get like volume of applicants, but like every person we do have coming in, like the chances of that person being a good fit and us really liking them, wanting to work with them are extremely high. So there's pros and cons, and obviously like access to talent is so much easier if you can go fully remote, but culture and being able to create something from scratch is just, I believe, like so hard. Also, like it's so hard anyway. Like, why would you make it harder?
I think that's good advice, and I think it's difficult, and I can see the pros and cons of both approaches. But I think it's interesting what you were saying about that advice from the recruiter, and you've got to remember that that is not impartial advice, as you say. And also with hiring as well as with sales, right? It's the number of leads in the top of the funnel. For the most part, doesn't actually matter unless there is some quality associated with that. Typically, if it's not even quality, right, then actually you could end up with 10 times as many people coming in the top. But if the quality is more than 10 times lower, then you're going to get a worse outcome than if you attracted less people but attracted more of the right people. It makes it so much more efficient for your business if that's the case. So I guess in terms of team then at the moment, how big is the team?
So we're going to be at 13. Had a few changes recently, but like each change that we've made has really, really helped us define exactly what we want. It's put us in a really good place. So we're going to be at 4 engineers, designer, 4 in sort of customer operations, 2 in sort of growth marketing. So that's kind of structure is mainly like people building the product, people selling the product. Those are
the key things to be doing. You've got to sell it and you've got to build something to sell. Absolutely. So I guess in terms of that new customer definition and moving to a more of a SaaS model, what does that look like kind of from a product pricing perspective, from a value prop perspective now then?
So it's interesting because when we started, it was very much like sole traders. That like sole traders are hard to build a scalable business with because really it's like selling to consumers, very price sensitive. The kind of value that we could add in terms of like automation, team management, all these new features we were building, like the incremental value for a sole trader is very small. It's like, I just wanted quoting, invoicing and payments, and like you're now building more and upping your prices, but I don't really care about that. And it's like, unfortunately, like we can't really build a business with people who don't care about that because like we're not making any money here. Which is tough to go through that transition. So we do have a solo plan at the moment, but it is a lot higher price than it was. So it's around £40 a month. So we're still talking like pretty low price point in the kind of B2B SaaS space, which again like makes it hard because it's still like going after volume, but we're gradually going up the kind of like business size, or at least business ambition. So our sweet spot right now is in that kind of up to 5 users. And we call like there's a team package, and then we do like 6 to 20, which is a business plan that we've started to get people in on. There's a couple of key features that we need that we kind of had historic like USP features, like the quoting side was always the thing that attracted people in the past because it's like that's the thing that we're able to like stand out from their competitors, like convert more revenue. It's kind of like an easy one to explain. And like now we've got like more unique features such as like the automation feature that's kind of built in, and being able to like create those separate customer journey pipelines. They're kind of more available in our higher plans, but there's a couple of things like we're now building like supplier material relationships, so a customer can like buy something on a quote, and then that can automatically link to materials that are available at certain suppliers, and the whole like process of can be automated. And then like being able to break invoices down like into stage payments essentially, which when we looked at it, no accounting software does particularly well. We think we've got a great solution to that. We just need to build it. But yeah, there's a couple of like big things to do that we need to do to really open the door to the slightly bigger businesses. But like at the same time, we are focused on delivering something that enables any small business to start up from scratch, but with ambition to grow. That's really the who we're targeting, and then grow with them.
I see.
So in like analogy wise, it's kind of similar to Shopify. So the feature set different, but I guess where Shopify is like you can just spin up an e-commerce business from scratch, and then obviously they're going up the chain now, and some more like sort of enterprise plans. Full service businesses, there is no great equivalent where the challenge, like there's more that's actually required because there's typically more steps. You're maybe creating. It's always a bespoke proposal rather than a fixed price product that you can buy online, and then delivery of that service involves coordination of a lot more than just shipping a thing. It's like, well, we have to source a load of materials and then deliver it with a team and manage them in the field. So yeah, there's a lot to it.
Yeah, a lot of moving parts, but I think that's a good way to kind of move up that kind of, customer size and value chain, is to, not just think, oh, if only we had X, Y, and Z, we could do this. Let's, put a pause on sales, go away, build this, put our heads down, and then come back. But actually find the customers that you can serve now, but have ambitions to be that next kind of segment of customers. And then if you can work with them and just stay slightly ahead of them, that's a great way to, still attract the right kind of customers that are going to help to validate that new proposition as well. So, yeah, I guess in terms of where things are now then with the business, what are the kind of the priorities? You mentioned, there are some bigger features that you're building, but what does the kind of the growth side, the kind of the sales, the marketing, how are you looking to, sell to these bigger customers? Yeah,
the biggest challenge, the biggest focus of my time now is growth, whereas it kind of needed to be in the detail on the product side to get us to this point now. Yes, there's a couple of extra things we need to deliver that we've got people queued up asking for, which is great. But really it's like, okay, how do we grow this thing in an efficient way, particularly in this like sort of current environment where, is it going to be easy to raise funding in 12 months time? Like probably not. So the real focus is like, how do we grow to that point where, we are sustainable? If we can get to that, default live position, that's absolutely the goal. Growth in this sector is really tough because it seems ridiculous. Bringing technology to this industry is quite early in that curve. Like the adoption is coming. It's coming quite quickly, but we are still early. So terms like people searching for like CRM for whatever industry is happening, but that's quite small volumes. A big part of our growth strategy is creating good quality and internal content. So in the form of video, we've got a big YouTube channel now. So great if you can subscribe to that if you're listening to this. So,
we'll drop the links in the notes.
Search Payaca on YouTube. Yeah, so a mix of content which is about like showing our internal team and culture, which is helpful for customers and like people we might want to hire. One of the things that we've found that people value the most is how transparent we are. It's very authentic. We're going out like telling them that we've got a public roadmap, saying what features we're going to build, and we just we spend a lot of time right now talking to customers every day. So that kind of internal content is something that we're showing for the team, but we're also like trying to create valuable material for the audience rank for that kind of long tail SEO, where people are searching for these very specific things, which may not be a big volume, but when they find us, that they convert. And then, experimenting with, a bunch of different things on the digital side. But then partnerships is really a big focus for me right now. Is so how do we get the right partnerships with suppliers and industry experts. So we've got a Payaca heating accelerator, we call it, where we've been working with a big personality in the heating space, runs their own heating company, but also a bunch of training businesses. How do we put together a package specifically for heating engineers? Because actually our solution is industry agnostic, for service industries, but how do we make this specifically for them? And then we make that work for heating engineers. We'll replicate that for other industries. Growth is a big focus right now. There's a lot we need to figure out, but everything's looking good.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great strategy. Certainly, getting that content out there, regularly to build that trust, especially with an industry that, as you say, is a little bit further behind the curve in terms of tech adoption. It's going to be so important that they get to know the Payaca brand as well as what the products can do for them. But yeah, definitely kind of resonate with the partnerships as well. If there are ways to align incentives and interests to serve that audience, especially one where there may not be as many people kind of getting in front of that audience, I think it's especially important to do so. And that continuous customer research as well. You just said in passing that we talk to our customers every day, but I just want to emphasize how important I think that is. I think you should be talking to customers every day. You should be talking to prospects every day. You should be talking to people that buy your products to understand why. You should also understand why the people that didn't buy your products, made that decision as well. And, as well as people that even went to competitors. Yeah.
And the other thing that's really important is obviously not every member of the team is able to talk to customers every day, if you like. An engineer, for example. Yeah. But one of the things that we focus heavily on is making that feedback the conversations we're having with customers visible to every member of the team. We use Intercom on our site, and there's a Slack channel that is just posting all the conversations, so the team can see what exactly are people asking us for. We also have a customer feedback channel where if someone's spoken about something important, it gets posted there. Right, this customer has asked for this, or this is the problem they're trying to solve, and it's just very visible to all members of the team. So it's so important that everyone, and then it's how we've hired software engineers as well, is people that are really focused on solving the customer problem more than writing elegant code. And because when we're at this stage, everyone's role is pretty broad. You're having to do more than just your specialism. You're having to think about, if you're an engineer, you might be thinking about product management, about customer success, about if something needs doing, someone's got to do it, and it may not be your role, but we've just hired people who just want to join that mission and just get it done, which is great.
Yeah, no, absolutely is. Yeah, I think you've got to hire people that buy into the problem that you're trying to solve, or the approach of finding problems to solve, rather than people that just have a solution already. And I think especially in the tech space, unfortunately, there are a lot of developers that have the solution in mind even before they know what the problem is, or even what the company is, right? They'll have, favorite languages, frameworks, or whatever it may be that they want to use or play with, as I've heard many developers unfortunately describe it. But it's, it's not really about playing with something. It's about solving some real customer problems. So I think cultural fit is so important there.
Yeah, and it's easier to do when we're here together. It's just much clearer.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. So I think, there's a lot of things here that I think people can and should take away from this. importance of being, customer research driven, focusing on the problem, be willing to change the solution, and building the right culture and team around that. So I think it's been really interesting talking to you today, and I hope people do get a lot out of this episode and do kind of chip in if you are listening and have any questions or perspectives, especially on the remote working versus, bringing an office together.
I'm sure that would trigger a few people.
Yeah, I'd love to hear some perspective on that. But I think the approach that you describe, and even down to that customer research and feedback, making that visible to people, I think it is so much harder to do in a fully distributed and remote environment.
Well, that's the other thing. I talked about ways that this was being tracked in Slack, for example, but the other thing is obviously all the conversations that happen. Someone will get off the phone with a customer on the customer success side and walk straight across to the development team, and we'll be chatting about that's an interesting thing. We haven't thought about it that way. We could solve it in this way. Let's create some. We could solve this right now, or we could solve this next sprint, or whatever it is. There's that side of it as well, which is almost unnoticed.
Yeah, I don't think that's something you can easily reproduce.
I just don't think you can't, because I guess things feel so unimportant that you are not going to go to the effort of saying, right, I'm going to book a meeting with you to discuss this. I'm going to interrupt you. I can't see whether you're interruptible. I can't see if you're making a cup of tea or whatever. So I'm just not going to mention that thing because it's not important. But there are so many times when someone has said something out loud that doesn't seem important, and it just triggers that conversation that we can go, let's chat about this now. Let's whiteboard it. And I just don't think you can recreate that remotely.
No, I think it's hard to do, and it's that compound effect as well. Is lots of small interactions like that build up over time, and like you say, there may only be a certain percentage of them that lead to a deeper level conversation. But if you don't have that kind of forum to do that, then you miss out on all of those. Yeah, and I think it's a great point. I think it's a good place to leave it. I think we'll share links to your website, we'll share links to your YouTube channel, etc. as well. But I guess just before we do wrap up, is there anything else that you would kind of like to leave our audience with?
I think the biggest thing that I'd always say, if you're going to go and do something, if you're going to start something, or if you are doing it, resilience is the biggest necessary trait, I think, is so there are so many times when I could have stopped doing what we're doing because it just seemed like it wasn't going to work, and just keep going. If you truly do have a customer problem that you are solving, if you keep going, you will get there. You'll figure it out, and it's hard.
Awesome. No, Matt, thank you once again for taking the time today. Much appreciate it. And I look forward to catching up again in future, seeing how those growth plans have gone and how you've managed to kind of move up that customer tier as well.
Great. Thanks, Matt.
No worries. Take care. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Inside the Scale Up. Remember, for the show notes and in-depth resources from today's guest, you can find these on the website insidethescaleup.com. You can also leave feedback on today's episode, as well as suggest guests and companies you'd like to hear from. Thank you for listening.